It is the charge coming from both inside and outside the Republican Party that has leaders most on their heels. And it doesn't help that plenty of those leaders have publicly emerged to note their dissatisfaction with Donald Trump and their reticence to either support or even be seen with him. The charge that current Republican leaders are big on demands, big on principle, and what needs to be done without question. But then they back up and roll over their own words when the topic turns to their presumptive nominee. Most recently, the charge was made on the electronic pages of Bloomberg News by their columnist and host of Political Capital on the broadcast network, Albert Hunt, who was just the latest to call out notable Republicans for putting principle in their back pocket when it comes to power, connections, and money, which, as we all know, are three things that in American politics almost always go together in the same sentence. We have this and more to discuss. We'll add your phone calls to the mix. Please join us. Get on the line. Be ready to stay on topic. Be brief to the point. 1-877-Newsmax. 1-877-639-7629. Our guest is founder of Americans for Tax Reform, one of and perhaps the most powerful group inside the Beltway, talking taxes and its connection to politics. And you, the voters. Welcome Grover Norquist back to the Hard Line. Grover, good to see you again. Let's start out right there because I think it's interesting, and I know that you certainly are never one to shy away from a battle. This came from Albert Hunt, where he talked about putting principle first. And he pointed you out right away, along with Ralph Reed, a strategist for the religious right, saying that you put principle first, but when it comes to Donald Trump, you and others are just willing to put it all in the pocket right now and say, let's go with him, even though he says things that are so objectionable. How do you answer the charge?
Well, Al Hunt is a liberal Democrat, and he likes tax increases. Every time there's an argument for a tax increase, my work is to stop the tax increase and to push for lower taxes. Al Hunt is always an advocate of higher taxes. And he was upset at me because I pointed out that Donald Trump's tax proposal was one of the best Republican proposals. Many of the Republicans had very good tax cuts. The 15% business tax that Donald Trump has put forward would make us very competitive in the world. Right now we're at 35%. European average is 25. Donald Trump wants to take it to 15. We would be very helped in our international competition against China and Europe and all the countries of the world if and when we enact Donald Trump's tax cut. Now, Al Hunt doesn't like Donald Trump's tax cut because he doesn't like any tax cuts. He likes tax increases. So he accuses the head of a taxpayer group for endorsing a tax cut of being unprincipled. No, I'm not with his principles. I'm with conservative principles, which are taxes down. And Hillary Clinton, who is the alternative, has come out for $1 trillion in tax hikes over the next decade that she admits to, and then a series of other tax increases that she mentions but doesn't tell you what the actual cost will be. 6 different capital gains tax rates. A exit tax, so once he's hit you with all these other taxes and you decide you want to flee to Canada or someplace else, they take a shot at you as you try and cross the border with an additional exit tax, as wonderful places like Weimar, Germany and Rhodesia used to do, and also a tax on stock trading so that no one will buy and sell their stocks in New York. They'll all go to Singapore, Hong Kong, or London. These are very destructive tax increases that Hillary Clinton has put forward. We actually have a website where we keep track of them at hightaxhillary.com. Hightaxhillary.com. The soda pop tax that she endorsed just got passed. The Hillary Clinton Memorial Soda tax just passed in Philadelphia. She endorsed it in the middle of her presidential race. So much for not taxing low-income people. Right at them. Soda tax.
Which is one of the reasons why I'm glad I gave up a whole lot of soda over the years. But let's get back to this here and let's be very fair. Yeah. You're very right, and there's a tremendous amount of conservatives, even a lot of people I've talked to on the left, quite frankly, who've said, look, you're right. When you have said you want to slash government, and Hunt put this in his article, quote, to the size where I can drag it in the bathroom and drown it in the bathtub. I mean, it's not a bad idea if you think about it. But how do you then get behind Donald Trump when he doesn't want to cut the size of government? This is a guy who many times has said that he wants to add to the government. Doesn't that fly directly in the face of what you want?
Well, step one is the tax cuts, which gives you more economic growth and gives you an opportunity to do a number of things, including more tax cuts. Step two is that the Republican House and Senate, led by our friend Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, have repeatedly endorsed entitlement reform that will dramatically reduce the size and scope of government. And I stand with Ryan and Mitch McConnell. And Trump has not said that he would oppose the kind of reforms, block granting means-tested welfare program, or reforming the long-term entitlements the way the Republicans in the House and Senate wish to do. Said he won't cut Social Security. Well, that takes 60 votes, so that's not happening anyway, even if every Republican wanted to do it. No, I think at the end of the day, the Republicans get to pass the budgets. Presidents don't pass budgets. They can recommend budgets. And we need to remember that we're electing a president who signs bills. We're not electing a king, and we're not electing somebody who gets to make all the decisions. The president is a co-equal part of the government with the Speaker of the House and the Senate leader.
Absolutely. Now, I got about 2 minutes left. Let me hit you with something else here. And you mentioned Hillary Clinton, so why not? By the way, you want to join us, folks? We're going to get to your phone calls momentarily. 1-877-Newsmax. Get on the line right now. There's a thinking process that came out in the Washington Post today talking about Hillary Clinton, that her lead in the polls may be even larger than it seems. Again, Grover, I think it comes to a lot of this, what is expedient, if you will, because there's a lot of people out there, high-ranking Republicans, who just don't even want to be seen photographed with Donald Trump at this point. And his poll numbers are historically dropping. It is a cratering like nothing we've ever seen before. So then how do you still stay behind somebody like that when people will look at you and others, conservatives, and say, you are looking at the single greatest presidential election defeat in history if you continue along this course?
Well, we're a month away from actually having a convention. The last several weeks have been filled with unforced errors and Donald Trump shooting himself in the foot. This was when it was admitted that Hillary Clinton broke the law, knowingly broke the law with the way she handled her emails. That should have been a week or two's news, but Donald Trump was telling it to some guy born in Indiana was a Mexican. And then there was the lousy economic report, 38,000 jobs created when 660,000 Americans left the workforce. If we'd grown at Reagan rates instead of Obama rates of growth, there would be 14 million more Americans at work today than there are. That's 14 million damaged families, damaged homes, damaged communities around the country. Donald Trump was winning when he talked about jobs, jobs, jobs. When he does this navel-gazing thing about somebody hurting his feelings and running off at every shiny thing that surprises him.
Granted, I'm going to step you there because you're exactly right, Grover. The shiny thing is what gets ridiculous here. But nobody can stop him. Yeah. He won't stop. Well, end of story.
Well, maybe we learned today that his children are at least somebody he listens to. And this is one of the questions that we have. Who does he listen to? His judgment evidently has been fairly good when it comes to building buildings or putting your name on buildings. But a campaign is like a major corporation, and it needs a lot of depth. He said he was going to self-fund. We're waiting to see him write the check. Hillary's raised the money to be spending tens of millions of dollars, trashing him in key states. And that's unanswered. He needs to write a check, and he needs to focus.
There you go.
And
it comes down to focus.
Hopefully his kids will say, Dad, can't fire your kids. So
wait a minute.
Listen to him.
You're going pretty far there, Grover. You said that Donald Trump can't fire his kids. I think he can fire just about anybody. We're all out of time. I want to remind everybody, Americans for Tax Reform, learn much more about what they're doing by going to atr.org. Grover Norquist, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for joining us. We got a couple of minutes here to take your phone calls at 1-877-Newsmax. Terry in Wichita, Kansas, talking about the delegates, Trump, the nominee. Terry, I got 30 seconds. It's all yours.
Hi, Ed. Thanks for taking my call.
Pleasure.
I just had a comment about the free the delegates. They are talking about that conscience clause.
Sure.
And I'm wondering about their conscience towards the voters, the people that have voted. Do they have any conscience about the people that have said, this is what we want?
It's a good point, and I'll tell you what I'm hearing too, Terry, in a lot of publications is that some of the delegates are saying that their people below them, the voters themselves, are telling them that they may want to change. Do you go for that? Do you believe that?
No, I don't. I don't believe that, and I don't believe the polls either. If the polls were right, Trump wouldn't be where he's at right now, and I think they've been manipulated to make him look like he's doing worse than he really is.
We are.
Because I know
We are going to find out. And quite frankly, what you're saying there is what a lot of people have talked about as well. We're going to find out as we get closer to November. Thanks so much for the call. Pauline in Idaho Falls, Idaho. Pauline, I have 30 seconds for you to talk about Donald Trump and jobs. Go right ahead.
Okay. As far as jobs are concerned, if we get rid of the regulations, then we could have jobs back in this country. That to me is important. And the other thing is, the people elected in the primaries Donald Trump, and these other people are coming in there, don't want him. Hillary's going to be worse. We should stick with who we've got in there.
I think there's even people on the left who would agree with you that Hillary might be worse. Thanks so much for your call. We appreciate that as well. We'll get back to more of your calls at 1-877-Newsmax as we go through the fastest 60 minutes of news. The dilemma over gun laws in America, the incessant circling of the drain over and over and over again, and the new butting of bullet heads between Donald Trump and the NRA. We'll talk about that and more when the Hardline continues.